All right, so so we got some tunes, we got lighting, we got sound. We're just waiting for Instagram. Be really nice, Instagram, if you would let us just go live without having to click this button. There we go. It's the only one that we have to do manually. Okay, I think Alan will just check all the feeds. I think we have everything we need here. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, you go first.
I'm good. It's Thursday.
Yeah, I know.
It's a new day.
It's the start of a new day. I'm well as well. I haven't been up. I was up at 2 yesterday. We were chatting yesterday morning.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
2 is wild. That's way too early.
Well, I went to bed at 9:30 though, so
yeah,
that's lots.
I suppose everybody needs different amounts of sleep.
I think so. And we were talking about it yesterday. Sleep when you're tired.
Yep.
I may not be the best example of sleep right now, but it's not like this all the time. January, February, I got lots more sleep, probably about 6.5 hours. Right now, I'm averaging about 4. I went to bed at like midnight last night, maybe a little bit later.
It's just a more jam-packed season of life kind of thing right now. Yeah.
A lot of things I want to do. Mm-hmm. A lot of things I'm excited about. We were just talking about, a lot of things I want to instigate.
Yeah.
Being an instigator. That was a fun role in hockey. You used to get a penalty for being an instigator. Now, apparently, it's a good thing.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Jenna is my sister-in-law. She lives in Regina with her husband and daughter. And how's Regina these days?
Regina's good. We're finally feeling like a little bit of summer here. So that's been nice. Although this week is super windy, like wind warnings. So you can't really be outside too much, but hopefully that ends. So
you guys get the wind warnings. We get the rain warnings.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, at least it's sunny today, but yesterday was just rainy and windy, like so windy all day. But
right. We don't get that. If we did, we'd have a lot of problems with power lines and trees and something.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah. But yeah, it rains a lot here, I'm sure, as you know, but for it to say that it's a rain warning, we get these things called atmospheric rivers, where the sky just literally dumps rain as hard as it can. It's crazy.
We had that like the other day, but it was only for like a couple minutes, and it probably wasn't anywhere near what you guys get, but it was just like suddenly it just poured like just straight down.
Yeah.
And then
we get it for like an hour.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have it for that long. We've had a lot of rain recently, which is great, but
we'll get it for days. Not like that, but it'll get socked in here. But that's why everything's so green.
And that's why you escape to 34-degree weather in August.
Okay, right, to come visit you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great trip.
Is that happening this year?
There's some discussion about it. Our littlest really wants to go. Soraya really wants to go, and we're like, oh, could she go? Like, Jaya went by herself several times, so we're like, could Soraya go by herself? I don't know. She's pretty young. Anyway, so there's some discussion when and how long, and
there's a wedding.
Oh yeah, that's later in September. Yeah. So do we go then and make that the trip?
I feel like maybe.
You
could send Soraya early, and she could come on that ranch adventure with us.
Whoa. So she's the one. So yeah, right. She wants to go spend time with your daughter. That's that's all she wants to do. I mean, she wants to see everyone else too. And that's like, we still got the music going on. Oops. Okay, we'll turn that off. That's what she wants to do. So wow, if that would be possible, that gives a whole new part of the discussion.
Yeah. And there's a pretty impulsive guy planning some of this. So, if you could get Keith on board, she'll be on a plane in 2 seconds.
Oh, they have a special relationship. So yeah, he's on board.
The music was good.
Good.
People liked the music. I saw somebody liked the music.
Really?
Yeah.
Say, well, let's put it back on again. So that's fine. Hey, this is our show. We can do what we want. Chill hop. Who liked the music?
Andre?
Oh, Juice. What's going on? Juice is the where did that come from? The music
I
was
don't
good
know.
though. Oh,
I have like a running
I see
chat
that.
at the side here, I
It
guess.
just showed up. Oh, you've got it over there. It just showed up on your screen.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan probably did that. Oh, all right. It's 6, y'all. Hey, Juice. Oh yeah, right. So Juice went. His nickname's Juice. Juice went to school with Lara
Oh.
in Regina.
Yeah.
Juice and I were in the fraternity together, making movies.
Small world, man.
At 2 a.m. Now you feel special. Him and I would be in our frat dorm rooms at 2 a.m. making movies. And Juice and I were in Kyoto 2 months ago, sitting in a hotel room together at 2 a.m. making movies. And we're like, what's happening here? That was 25 years ago and we're doing the same thing.
When did you realize like he went to school with your wife?
I feel like I remember, I don't know, my memory of it, Juice, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember being at like Red Robin and somehow making that connection. I don't know. That's somehow my memory is being at Red Robin and making that connection.
So weird. Connections so like weird. That are so weird.
So weird. Yeah, there's a lot of weird connections these days. But I guess, so people didn't come on here probably to hear talk about the weather.
Oh my gosh, I live behind that. My daughter goes to that school.
Oh, right.
I probably shouldn't. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I just realized this is live.
Okay, so that is a good topic. That's been coming up. What about our kids' names? What about kids' schools? This is coming up for me. I've asked our school to make their account private because they're sharing details of location and times and stuff like that. But then I think man, that's coming from a fear-based place within me. And I think there's a role to educate and want to protect our children. I think that's natural. So what I've realized is I can't be everywhere all the time to protect my kids. The best thing I can do is educate them about what I might be worried about, what might be out there, in a way that they still feel safe, but also feel empowered to know, okay, if this thing that my dad's scared about actually happens, this is what I'll do.
Right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that. You can't be everywhere. You can't hold their hands for the rest of their lives. So you got to equip them with all the tools and give them a lot of skills, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they can kind of predict situations based on your role modeling, right? And all those conversations that you've had. Yeah, I don't know. My daughter's school, they have an account, but I've never seen them post really anything like that.
Right.
But as far as like my own social media, like Savannah will ask me a lot I will ask her if I could post something before I do, obviously.
Right. Well, that's not obvious. I think that's really good that you asked for her permission.
I guess it's probably not. I would never post anything embarrassing of her either. Like I've never like shamed her or anything like that.
Right.
But I think she should have control about what goes out into the world.
Yeah.
Especially because she doesn't know who's on the other end of my accounts. Right. So
true. I don't know, now, right? There's more and more people that, could be anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, did they respond? Did the school respond? And
yeah, very well. Yeah. I'm joining the pack next year as vice chair. So, my say has a little more weight behind it maybe. But I just said, look, how I said it was, I'm not sure. Like there's a lot of stuff happening these days that I'm not sure about. Here's how I feel about it. And I let the chair, the head of the pack know. And she was great. She's like, oh yeah, okay. And I said, look, I'd like to open up this discussion to more parents because I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm just one parent. I'd like to hear how other parents feel. Yeah.
Or even posting similar content or the same content, but just not in real time.
Right.
That could be helpful too. Yeah, like we had an event and post it 2 days later. Similar to like if you were maybe out of town or something and you would maybe post delayed, so people, if you have a big following or not, I guess, but something like that, so it's not in real time, where you can like, we're at an event here in real time, so people can show up there. Kind of thing.
We're in our house. But yeah, there's, but I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, let's just say more and more people want to hear what we're having to say, and I'm at events, then now those events are selling tickets, and those things have a time and a date on them and a location. So, people will know where I am at what particular time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think there's like I don't know, there's a real, to me, I always go to these caveman theories I used to have about like, well, there would have been a day where maybe I would have gone out and had to hunt, and I might not come back. As the sort of role as the male, perhaps, because I'm somewhat expendable. Like if I don't come back, the wife and kid and the village could keep going largely, right? So I know this is, but I would need to set up my family for success even if I don't come back. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a very sort of caveman-esque part of that.
Right. Yeah. You want to prep them.
Yeah.
Make sure they're set up for success.
Yeah, I don't want to live in that world of like, I'm not coming back. But there is like I know in the past I've lived too much in the like positive thinking world and only thinking about that and not thinking about the downside of like these things could happen.
Right.
I think it's important to consider all possibilities, especially best case and worst case.
Yes.
Or some people live in the worst case. I think it's important to think about the best case too sometimes,
Yeah. I've lived in the worst case for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if you're going to spend so much energy focusing on the worst case, you actually have to give some energy to at least the positive, because that is a possibility. I worked really hard at shifting more energy towards the positive stuff, but you got to see both sides. There's both possible outcomes, right? And probably somewhere in between.
Somewhere there's a healthy balance there at certain times. Well, now I guess we should talk about your background a little bit and why I thought it'd be just so awesome to have you here, because I'll let you share. I love in my version of it, as we were talking yesterday, and I kind of knew what you did, but not to the extent as we were talking about it yesterday. I was like, holy cow, you're a mom, quote unquote a mom with a bunch of other parents to a large amount of kids who have come from some of the hardest situations in our country.
That's absolutely like how I would describe it. And it's funny that you say that, because after our call yesterday, I said to Steve that I don't think people understand what I do. I said, I don't think Ryan had a clue what I do.
Not to the extent.
And that's fair. Like it's a really complex role. So I work in group living treatment for primarily teenagers. So I have my master's in social work, and I've worked directly with kids for 18 years now in group living. So how it is right now, I'm a clinical caseworker. I do their therapy, their treatment planning, all that kind of jazz. But my office is like right in the group home. So they have access to me anytime I'm there, which is a really like cool, innovative thing. I feel like I'm
it's
in
not
their
always like
lives.
that?
No, I mean, if you go to, a lot of kids do like outpatient, like therapy, right? Go to a therapist for an hour a week.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. One time a week or whatever.
Yeah. So this is very like, we do a lot of treatment in the life space. So it's living treatment.
Right.
So you're not just learning things sitting in an office with me. You're learning things by doing in the life space.
As you experience them, as they come up, as like, every day, all day long.
All day long. So I'll give them tools in sessions together, and then I kind of give ideas to my team, and they can implement them, and then they practice everything in the life space. So when actual real distressing situations come up, we're present with them to practice those skills with them and support them. And it's very like unconditional. Every day is generally a new day.
Right.
We break days down. If you have a crap morning, you can have a great afternoon. Doesn't have to carry on through the whole day. Wow. So yeah, and I have 10 kids in my group home.
It's a big family. Right.
Yeah, boys and girls.
Right. Well, so I feel like that's like you could go into, like you said, that office environment for an hour a week, and that's the theory.
Yeah.
That's almost like going to school. But until you actually get to experience it and live it, I mean, that's the practice, right? And they're getting to practice these things. Like I heard you say, like you're supporting them, you're giving them tools, they can practice it. Okay, that didn't quite work. What about this? And they're getting that real-time integration of these things.
Yeah. With like supports all around them at all times, where their safety nets. You mess up, we'll lift you up, and we'll keep learning together. So yeah, it's a pretty intense environment at times with 10 kids. And generally we have 3 staff plus myself and the unit manager or group home manager I prefer. And so there's a lot of people in the house, and it's busy, but it's awesome too. And it's like just a big, busy, exciting, chaotic family.
Right. That was that book I was telling you about, The Frantic Family.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that book was interesting because I'd seen this and I considered it myself, but I wasn't sure that I could do this, where you can use business as the analogy for how a successful company, you could take the analogy of how some successful companies are structured and work with teams and all this culture and all this kind of stuff, values, purpose, mission. You can take all of that and actually, find a way to do it in a family.
Yes.
And that was just like a light bulb. I was like, wait, right. That makes so much sense, because a lot of us, I mean, I love my parents and I had a great childhood, and not everyone's had a great example of a mom and a dad and a family. And then there's some things I'm changing with my family. It's just sort of what happens generation over generation. But you have such a small subset of what this could look like. Whereas a lot of people have worked in different companies, or they can study companies. You can go in the company and check it out. It's hard to go into a family and check out what they're doing. So anyways, I just thought it was a really good idea to take what's working already in these other families, companies, and then bring that into the home.
Yeah, especially for someone who's like really business minded, right? You're pretty business minded.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense.
Maybe
I'm more of like a feeler.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you got to find what works for you to get to the point you want with your family, right? Like but I also see the business part too, with like the values and your philosophy and what's the mission of your family. Like, Are you guys all cohesive? Do you all have the same values?
Right. How do you create that? Even if you have, is it okay to have different ones? What are the ones that we have that are the same?
Your kids might have different values.
Yeah.
And you probably need to embrace some of those.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Right?
It's not like Kevin and I just did this yesterday on the boat. We were on there. I know you and I were chatting about this yesterday. We were on there. This isn't mine, right? This is this group plan that I keep talking about, even though they're not paying me to say this. But I think it's fantastic. We were on there from 10 in the morning until literally 8:30 at night when we had to hand it back in again. But we got off and we did a hike. We got off and we got some ice cream. We anchored. Like, we barely used any gas, but we did an entire day of talking about, well, just life and us and vision and values and purpose as it pertains to us personally, and then how it pertains to us together, and then how it pertains to us inside, and how it pertains like our internal values, and then and our external ones, like our internal purpose and our external, like, so there was this whole framework that I thought, wow, this could be really helpful for a family, where my personal values might be, I don't know, this like a bigger circle, and then the family ones might be a subset of that, but we all have.
Where's the crossover?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In my math world, it's like the Venn diagram, right? That's
exactly, yeah.
Might have to come up with some new words for the family, but it's okay if the kids have ones that are outside the circle.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you have some in your experience.
I mean, I definitely have a lot of different values than most of the families that I work with, or different cultural things too. So I work with kids from pretty much everywhere from across Canada. So like currently Manitoba, Alberta, Newfoundland, Nunavut, Northwest Territories. So I've got some kids from everywhere. So there's different values. Families live differently in different places. Way up north, they all live together for generations.
Okay, the whole family, like
the whole family,
grandparents, parents, kids.
Yeah, primarily for different reasons, though, like lack of housing.
Okay. Even though
There's
there's a
nowhere
lot
to
of
move
land.
to.
Pardon me?
There's nowhere to move to in some of these communities because they're so remote.
Mm-hmm.
Getting things built there is impossible.
Wow. Even though there's tons of land. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Canada, and it's the northern part of Canada.
Yeah. So, like,
Okay.
yeah, I have a...
Not that they want to, they just don't have somewhere to move to.
Correct.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, like one of my kids, her family lives in Nunavut, and there's literally no housing. So her whole family lives together because you have to fly in all the materials, and so there's no construction. They build like one house every few years.
Wow, what about like prefab? You could just truck a house up and drop it in.
But you can't, you need to fly in.
Okay, you could.
I know.
You could
But
helicopter.
who's doing that for
I've
these
seen
communities?
those videos in
right?
China that you could helicopter a prefabbed house, beautiful one.
I'm sure you can, but who's going to do that for this community when nobody has any money and there's no job opportunities? And
What about this whole density thing? Like, it's all the rage around my neighborhood is increasing density and making new homes for people and incentives for doing that. And why doesn't that exist up there?
there's just nothing up there. I got one of my girls to do a little, like her brother we were videoing, and he took me outside on his phone in their community.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing. They get water hauled in for their house. Her whole family lives in one little house.
Wow, I'd like to see that. I think that's the thing. We live in a bubble sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a different world, and it's so challenging when there's no resources, and their community's 2,000 people.
Right. But you need, hierarchy needs food, shelter, water.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Like her mom came down recently, and a jug of milk in their community is $11.
What is it? I don't buy it.
I don't know, like $5.
Oh, it's twice as much.
At least, yeah. Just
Right.
getting food and stuff is a challenge. Yeah, there's so many challenges, and
It's hard to, so in that place, it would be that much harder potentially to find work locally.
correct.
They're saving money on housing, but it's not exactly the way they would like. And then everything like essentials, maybe like milk, are twice as much.
Correct. So like she has in her family home is like the grandparents, 3 brothers, her sister's husband, their baby, and they have another baby on the way.
That's a full house.
Yeah, and it's not like a negative. Like they're loving, and it's so incredible, and I love it. But it's just hard, difficult scenarios.
Right. They might want a little more space, probably. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and just opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, those are some of those challenging scenarios that we're working through.
Right, and you guys are welcoming kids from around the country. You were telling me this yesterday, but maybe people don't know why. Why are they coming to you guys?
Okay, so we have kids that come for a variety of reasons. Lots of mental health concerns. Trauma is primarily a reason. Like safety concerns in the home, generational trauma, residential schools has been, has had a huge impact on Saskatchewan and our country.
Right.
So like a lot of kids come to us after significant amount of trauma and from family breakdown.
Some of them from First Nations communities.
Primarily, but
from
all over.
Sure.
So it's difficult, but we get some pretty intense kids, but they're all so great, and I'm so proud that we get to offer them like a safe space to really thrive and be kids. My goal is for them to be kids.
Right.
Come be kids. You don't have responsibilities here. Like you just get to come and be a kid. So there's so many reasons. Mental health, obviously, substance use, trauma, aggression, PTSD, depression, suicide ideation, suicide attempts, self-harm, gang involvement. Like drugs are really big in Regina right now. So there's lots of drug use here, making things pretty dangerous. So.
Wow. And why? Yeah, and why do they come to you guys? Like, I know where they're coming from. Why are they coming to you?
Because we're pretty dang good at what we do. We have oh no, I have something that says reload my page.
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ignore it.
Internet, Steve.
Yeah, we're we're pretty good at what we do. We have the most educated staff. Actually, I believe it was, I want to say yesterday was our 58-year anniversary.
58?
Yeah, of Ranchero.
Wow.
So,
that's a lot of kids that have come through there.
Yeah. So it's exciting. I can't remember what you asked me now as I'm talking. Oh, why do they come to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty educated. We're experienced. I feel like we're innovative and progressive. We do a ton of ongoing training too. We're always bringing in new data. We're always bringing in new information. Training is a huge piece for us. Safety, always learning what's the best for our kids, because what people thought was great for kids years ago is, we're learning through research, is not good for our kids.
Right.
We're
growth
heavily
mindset.
Yeah, and we're heavily focused on trauma-informed care, really coming to our kids with a trauma-informed lens.
Like how much that might be affecting things.
Yeah, what happened to you, not what's wrong with you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
Behavior
the language, isn't it?
Language.
Yeah.
And they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
I really believe kids are inherently good. I think people are inherently good.
Yeah.
They want to do their best. And I think they just need people to nurture them and really see who they are as a human being, beyond their behaviors, beyond their struggles. They are someone inside with values, beliefs, and strengths. And I really think, like, I come from a strengths-based perspective, and I really, really try to find, even in the most difficult kids, I try to find what it is that'll create a spark for them. And it takes a long time with a lot of kids that I work with. Right. I mean, I have a young girl that I just absolutely loved, but it took me a year to get her to really talk to me in my office. Yeah. And other people don't understand that. External agencies or people who are referring kids to us think, come, like, fix my kid.
Right.
Like, how long do you think? Like 3 months? Do you think like...
Trying to put a timeline on it.
Yeah. And everyone is different.
Totally.
And depending on trauma, building those relationships is really difficult. They've been hurt by a lot of people, and a lot of these kids have developed a lot of skills to protect themselves, and they're resilient.
Survival, coping. Yeah.
And they're really good at reading rooms. They're really good at reading people. And if you're not genuine, they know. And they're not going to open up to you.
Sure. So, trust is a big thing, right? Safety, trust, you gotta work for it.
I feel like we think kids should just inherently trust us. We're the adults.
Right.
You earn my trust.
Right. Listen to me.
As kids,
I'm the
you
adult,
earn my
I know better.
Trust. Yeah.
Right. No, yeah. It's a two-way thing though. This is what I've experienced with my eldest, is like, look, trust is a two-way street here. Like, I'm going to trust you, and you got to show me that I can, like, do what you said you're going to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it works both ways. She's looking at me going, okay, and for me to trust you, you got to do what you said you're going to do, Dad.
Yeah. Okay. Follow through.
Fair enough.
And I speak a lot to my team about that, and that follow through matters for our kids.
Sure.
If you say you're going to do something and you don't, that's a really big rift and tear in your relationship, and that's going to take a long time with the kids we work with to repair.
Right.
So I definitely work really hard to follow through on everything I say. If I cannot follow through, I will not tell them that. And kids appreciate that a lot. They really want honesty, and they want boundaries and consistency. Right. I really feel like that.
Right. And that gives them that feeling of safety. I trust you, and follow through matters. Yes. Trust. And it's funny, Ellen, I just posted that yesterday. Trust and verify. Like, don't just, it's sort of this head and heart thing. Like, okay, there's a trust, like you were saying, like a feeling thing. Like, okay, this feels good to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not just going to, wildly go out there and no, I'm going to verify. Like I told my daughter, and she told me, I trust you. And here's how, here's how trust. Yeah, that's interesting. That's like a value. I value trust. I value safety. And then there's a behavior. This is how we show trust.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Trust and verify. Interesting.
And I work hard on those relationships.
Yeah.
And that's part of showing up. I show up to, I show up to kids' activities outside of work hours.
So you said 10 kids.
10 kids.
How many parents? I mean, quote unquote parents in the home?
Oh, about that. It's the same amount. But we only have,
10
well,
kids.
there's me and my partner who run the group home together. But I have a team. Yeah. And we have 3 staff at all times. Yeah. And we do shift work.
But you guys are going to their activities.
We go to all of our staff. Yeah. My whole team shows up on days off for various activities. If our kids have volleyball games, if they have a powwow to go to, if they have a family event, if anything like that, we always show up as much as we can, even if we're not working. I have 2 girls who play volleyball. I go every weekend if I can. I've missed 1 game.
That's commitment.
Yes, and showing up when I said I would show up.
Right, follow through.
I'm also a well-rounded human outside of my job, which shows them that I'm a human. I have a family. I have other dimensions to me than just your therapist or your clinician, right? So, and it really creates a different kind of relationship. We often bring our families around. Right. My dog comes to work with me regularly.
Right. Yeah. No. What comes to mind is like you have like, yeah. There's an interesting thing around. Sometimes parents depend on the kids to meet their needs. Mm-hmm. Versus what I hear is you've got all these other things that fill your cup. Yeah. And so you're not dependent on. This can be the case, right? There's some parents that would depend on the kids to fill their cup. Yeah. And then it's a problem when the kids leave, right? Because it's now like, oh, well, I was putting so much into them and I was dependent on them. Now what do I do when they're gone? Yeah. But you aren't doing that. You especially in that environment, right? Because it's quite challenging, I would imagine. But you have all these other things that you do that fills your cup with your dog, that gives you joy, and your photography and your family and.
I mean, in my job, I really we live in trauma for the most part. There's lots of chaos in my job, hearing about a lot of trauma in my job. Kids talk about a lot of trauma. I read about it. So you really have to be mindful and present and then learn to kind of compartmentalize some of that and check it at the door when you leave. That's a big piece for me.
Yeah. How do you not, because I know that's also a challenge, and now you're in an environment where, again, most of us will never experience. How do you not take that home with you?
I do take it. Or do you? I do. I think I take it home in a sense that I'm always connected. I think things have changed so much since I started 18 years ago. And it used to be that when you left your shift at night or whenever it was over, you would write in a binder. Yeah. And then you'd write notes. This is what happened today. Right. So the next person could come in and read it or the next day. Right. And you never had any communication really. Maybe there was some emails going back and forth, but everything we communicated was in writing. Yeah. So you would disconnect when you left because you don't have group text. You don't have Teams apps. You don't have all this stuff. So you would go home, you would come in the next day before your shift, read what happened. Now you've got email, you've got Snapchat, you've got Teams apps, you've just got texting.
You're connected. Yeah. Still connected even when you leave.
I know exactly what's going on at any given moment, which I love and hate.
Yeah, right.
All at the same time.
Right.
So
you can, especially, if they might be going through something, I guess, potentially when you leave, right? Something might come up.
Yeah. And I've had that. And that's why building a really strong team for me is important so that my kids don't just rely on me, which I have the best team. Like if kids don't want to talk to me about their, deep feelings or whatever, because we sort of have this idea that it's like one size fits all. So I have kids that come to me and obviously there's a process prior to them being admitted to like my group home. Like, are they the appropriate fit for like the kids we have, all that kind of jazz, right? But I'm their clinician when I'm their caseworker in the group home.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Like, it's not like if we don't jive, you don't get to like try out someone else.
Yeah. Like I don't get to change my parents. Like that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's challenging when there's kids that really just, for whatever reason, they don't like you.
Yeah.
Like I've worked with kids that just don't like me.
Right.
There's no reason. They're just something about me. I mean, there's a reason. I shouldn't say there's no reason.
You're not the cause, but you're the trigger.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really challenging.
Right.
To say like, sorry, but like I'm your choice.
Right.
Like that's, so I need a really, really good team that I can rely on to support this kid when he doesn't want to talk to me, or, you know, so that's a huge challenge. Wow. Because it's not one size fits all. I'm not going to connect with every youth that comes into my program. So you need a really, really good team to like support every youth. You need a variety of personalities too.
Right. Yeah.
So you've really got to finesse your team to make sure you've got someone nurturing. Yeah. Someone super nurturing. Somebody who's good to hang out with girls and do their makeup and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Wow. You know, that sounds like an amazing model if I was to take it the other way, to put into a company, so that you do have well-rounded ideas and people at the table that are thinking different ways. And so you don't get, you know, sort of narrow focused into this is the way it is and this is the way we always do it. And everyone around me confirms that because I've picked people that think the same thing as me. Yeah,
exactly. There was a question. Am I allowed to answer the question? A success story?
Where are you seeing this?
I don't know. I have a little running thing on the side of my screen asking for a success story.
Okay, good.
Well, I'm just running this podcast now.
Yeah.
A success
I'm the
story.
guest. All right, Jenna. Please answer yes.
I do have success stories. So the trick with success stories is we don't often have the ability to keep in touch with a lot of our youth after they leave. So phone numbers change, all that kind of stuff, right? Wow. I do have a success story. I worked with some kids years and years. I have a lot of success stories, but this one is one that someone I keep in touch with. I worked with some brothers years and years and years ago. And really, they were just the best kids, came from a really tough situation and really just all embraced coming here and worked pretty hard on themselves, stayed for a little bit after being in our treatment program. And then they all moved back up to Northwest Territories, married, kids, houses, jobs. Still keep in touch, cutest families, like kids are adorable. It's really nice to see. I have other success stories of kids that have gone on to get their own places in Regina who weren't from Regina.
Right. They liked it so much.
Liked it so much. There wasn't as much opportunity on their home reserve. So
did they stay for the winter too?
Yeah. Those have been really nice success stories. I have a girl that I worked with for a really, really long time, and I worked really hard with her on depression, suicide, hallucinations, and just her overall mental health. And she graduated high school and is like really successful and living on her own. And I worked my butt off with her, like 3 a.m. phone calls while on vacation to like make sure she's good, driving out to the group home at night to lay on a deck with her to calm her anxiety attack.
Whoa.
Things like that. But that's showing up.
That's commitment. Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do you think would have happened with some of these stories potentially if they didn't come to you guys?
Also, I want to preface by saying success is different for everybody.
Sure.
I just want to make sure to say that. Sometimes success for us is keeping somebody safe for a year, keeping them safe just while they're in our program. That's a huge success for us. Like, and as you know, they're caregivers and stuff like that. We need to take those successes because sometimes this job is really really fucking hard.
Right.
So
I can't totally comprehend. I get that it could be totally, but your experience of it, I can't imagine.
yeah.
What it would be like. Yeah. And what do you think could happen with some of these stories? If
Yeah,
they
I
didn't
think,
just see them?
oh, well, the substance use these days is wild.
Mhm.
I'll say that. When I started at this job 18 years ago, it was like a big deal if a kid ran away and smoked like
That
a little
was
bit of weed. That
yeah.
was like, oh my God, we had an AWOL. This is the worst thing ever. Like, drugs right now are insane.
Really?
Fentanyl, the opioids, like all that kind of stuff. It's like things are being laced with fentanyl
And you're
right
seeing
now.
this, yeah, in your care.
Yeah, in our community and in communities around us too. So it's terrifying with that, with mental health issues, and then you add in coping with substances. I think social media is really difficult for these kids. So I think a lot of these kids probably
they're seeing a reality that is very different than theirs, right?
Yeah, even gang life. Like
Right.
that's gang life isn't what's in movies and videos.
No.
Like so lots of these kids would probably not be alive, and some of them would just be in really unsafe, dangerous situations.
Right.
And I've experienced both. So we do have times when we get calls post-discharge that youth have passed away.
Wow.
So I recently got a call 3 days ago that one of my previous youth passed away in some gang violence.
After they left, though, your guys' care?
Yeah, he left my care like 10 years ago.
Okay, right.
Probably more than that, 14 years ago maybe. But
have you guys ever lost someone while under care?
I have not. But people have, yes.
Yeah, but you, 19 years working with some of the most troubled teens in our country, have never lost one.
Not while they've been with me. I've lost some after. Yeah.
That's amazing. Tony Robbins talks about how many people he's helped, and he's never lost anyone under his care.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, because he has a whole program, Date with Destiny, and one of the things he does is he intervenes with people that are experiencing those suicidal thoughts. And one of his things he talks about is never having lost them. And I don't know if that might have changed. I thought I heard something about that, but I think that's phenomenal what you're doing.
Yeah, it's super hard. I've definitely had serious attempts. Kids make serious attempts. I've definitely had some really scary situations. But yeah, I'm pretty thorough with safety planning. And again, it's not even about me. That's like my team is so good.
Yeah.
Like our team, like we work, I think we're all equal playing. Sorry, I hit my mic. I'm not sure.
That's okay. We need that song we were talking about yesterday, the team song from
oh yeah.
Everybody. What is that from? That's from is that from the Lego movie?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was that I said, but
yeah.
Yeah, and that's like our team. I feel like we're all equal, and so I think that's totally all on them. I give them strategies and they implement them. I'm not the one always there.
Yeah, but you're the coach.
They need tons of credit.
Sometimes you're the coach, sometimes you're the instigator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're the personal trainer on the deck, late at night.
Exactly. Yeah. Laying there.
Yeah. There's one other role you mentioned from that conference that would be interesting to know what that one was.
I know. I need to find my notes from that. But yeah, there's tons of co-regulation that happens, which I'm sure, as any parent would know, you need to co-regulate with your children.
I don't think every parent knows that.
I hope we get there one day.
Right.
I
think where do parents go to learn this stuff, though?
Yeah. I mean, I hope there's resources out there. I know. Even me, I learn new stuff every day. My daughter uses all my stuff against me.
Right.
She told me the other day that she needs to write her own story.
Wow. Yeah.
I told her I would be writing her a no into the story.
Like, well, that's great. Thanks for your opinion, Mom. Yeah.
And that she should be able to make her own choice. It's her life, and let her write her story.
Right. It is, isn't it? Right.
It is her story. It doesn't
hard.
Involve her going to Starbucks with her friends at 10 years old.
Yeah, Starbucks, man, don't get me started. But yeah, Soraya said the same thing when we went for a run. She wanted to go with me, and it's a long story. But the thing she said is that, because I usually go for, it's about a hour long and out and back 5K, and it's a really nice run. But she said she wanted to go with me all the way, and I'm like, well, it's pretty far. Like, you've just started running. I know I'm big into Atomic Habits. Maybe we should just go for a little short one down the street and back, and like, let's build a good habit of doing this. She's like, Daddy, don't put your limits on me, in terms of like what you think I can do and what I can't do. I want to go to Dundrave. I'm like, okay, fine, let's go to Dundrave. Let's go. So it was a beautiful run. We stopped and picked some dandelions and blew some things and smelled some flowers. And it was not the run that I thought I was going to go on, but it was, it was different. It was even better. So
yeah, connection.
But she's the same. She's throwing stuff back at me.
Yeah, all the time. Savannah throws it all back at me. And I'm so proud and annoyed all at the same time.
You can be both, yes.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. What was your, I didn't know, what was your master's in? I didn't know you had a master's.
Social work.
Social work, yeah.
Yeah.
So
but I'm being real. I learned everything I know
sure.
in person, working directly with and like from all the incredible training I get to access. Like, I'm so spoiled. In our agency, we have access to like such smart people. We have a whole clinical assessment team. We have a psychiatrist that works with us. We have like, we're just so spoiled. So I have like access to limitless resources, really.
Yeah. But so we all do, the internet these days, but not everyone makes use of those.
Yeah.
Right. You're using them.
Yeah. And I'm pretty spoiled with it. And I use as much as I can, even in my own stuff with, Savannah, even. I'll just tell this little story, and I don't think she would care, but Steve has his chronic illness, and so my husband has a chronic illness, but he was in the hospital for quite some time years ago, for about a month actually, and that was really hard on Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
And she became really aggressive with me, physically aggressive, verbally aggressive. And I was starting to kind of freak out a little bit, like, oh my goodness, like, what's going on? She also created like an imaginary friend named Ariel. And Ariel was the one that would teach her or tell her to do these things.
Okay.
And that was really hard for me as somebody who works in mental health in child development. And I was like, oh my goodness, like my kid is crazy. Like, that's literally, and like, in your mind, you're just immediately feeling like that. And that's not the case.
No, but
I accessed some resources.
Right.
Which again, I'm spoiled. But I created like a whole thing for her. So we created superpowers.
Right.
Because what I realized is she was trying to process that Daddy left and didn't come back.
Whoa.
And thought, and she hadn't seen him because he was in the ICU and they wouldn't allow her to go in for a little bit and whatever. So,
this is the way to cope.
Yeah. And I realized she's trying to process this at the end of every school day or daycare day. And so we created superpowers. We talked about them every day. We talked about Ariel, which was her way of communicating that what she didn't want to communicate.
Yeah. Okay. Can you kind of put it over here a little bit, and it feels a little safer to talk about this person over here. This
safer if Ariel's mad.
Yeah. Isn't there a movie we just watched this? What's that one about imaginary friends? It's in theaters right now, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
There's like a Disney movie.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she created one.
Ryan Reynolds is in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I've seen some promos for that with him.
Yeah.
She created this character that could express her emotions for her, in frustration. And then that Ariel could be mad at me without her being the one that's mad at me.
Right.
Which again, that prompted me to say she needs to see her dad. This is really confusing. It's very abstract.
It's out of place from what was before. Yeah.
Yeah. And saying he's at the hospital, whatever, she didn't know what that looks like. She didn't know what to think. Like, what does that mean? So we created all our superpowers. We still talk about our superpowers, and she's 10 years old.
Right.
They go with you everywhere. They're in your pocket all the time. We created we talked about how Ariel's not allowed here anymore.
Okay.
We put up little signs
Okay. Because now she's able to talk about herself,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't need
Yeah.
to put it outside of her. Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to
Okay.
talk to me. I'm okay with
Right.
those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Right.
not about, you're allowed to have whatever feeling you want.
Yep.
Um,
Validating her
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Regulating your emotions isn't about not feeling anything.
Right. Yeah. It's not about
And I
suppressing
think,
them. It's not
yeah,
about trying not to cry.
I
they're
think people
real.
think that's what it is, though. Like, oh, I need to be regulated at all times, so I should be even at all times. No, you need to like respond to the situation with the appropriate amount of emotion. That's what
Yeah.
regulation is. Saying you're like, something sad happens and saying you're going to not be sad and you're just going to be even keel all the time.
Right.
Someday that fills up.
Yeah. It doesn't go away.
And we're stuck
still
here.
There. Yeah.
And we blow up.
Yeah. It needs
Like
to,
I have
it
kids
needs to
that
go
hold
somewhere.
everything in, and
It
then
needs
I
to
have
go somewhere.
Yeah, and then I have kids that hold everything in, and then I have kids that have little outbursts all through the day.
Right.
And they're really small, but then they don't have a major blow up.
Yeah. Let your kid have a tantrum.
So yeah. Also, like, there's a ton of research of connection.
Yeah.
I'm against timeouts,
Right.
like time away.
They're at a point where they're wanting connection, but it might not show up the way we think, right? They're having an outburst, they're having a meltdown, they're having a tantrum. And at that point, there's a quote from somebody famous about that. What they're actually wanting is like a cry for help, right?
Yeah.
A cry for help or there's a better quote that I'm going to say here, but they're showing that they need something right now. And then some parents would go, and I've done this, you need to go away right now because I can't handle this, really, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
But you're saying so much of that kid versus like, what do you actually need right now?
Right. And the timeout concept of like time away on your own, I've never loved.
Right.
I think partly because I've like read research and that kind of stuff, but even just I'm here. Like you can have a calming time out so Savannah would, for example, maybe have a time out in her bedroom, but I would be right there outside the door. Like, hey, you're going to do you want some calming time? Would you like me with you or not with you?
Right. I think there's a distinction. So yeah, Len just messaged me and helped me out here. Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
All communication is either a loving response or a cry for help. That's the one. Thank you, Len. And I do think there is a time for time. I wanted to say one thing there is a time for timeouts when maybe the child, like I've seen my kids do this, where they need a timeout, right? Where they're like, this is overwhelming for me. Like William used to do this. He would just like, I can't, there's too much going on right now. I need to go in my room. I need to go outside.
Did he voice that? Or you guys just kind of realized he was overstimulated and
he would do it. He would just do it. He's gone. Like,
see, that's totally different than sending someone away when they're
it was
imagine if you were upset about something and your wife was like, please go sit alone in your room for 30 minutes and I will not talk to you until that 30 minutes is over.
Right. What does that say? Now, how do I feel about them? Like, but wait, I'm really upset about something. I wanted to try and tell you about it. And maybe it's not coming out the way that you want, but I'm here trying to express this to you and you're telling me to go away.
Yeah. Go figure it out on your own.
Right. Yeah.
All by yourself at, 8 years old.
Yeah. Right. You're right. That's different than you're right. But there's a time when parents need a timeout. There's a time where I'm like,
away.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's different than when it's like, me driven versus me posing. That's different. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I've walked away. Savannah needs a lot of connection and really enjoys that. And I sometimes with anxiety, I have experienced anxiety and sometimes the input to me is a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
She likes to like cuddle and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not the most affectionate in that way. Right. And I work really hard on bringing that to her because I know that's what she needs. So there's times where we've had a conversation and we have this conversation on when it like in neutral situations. We don't do it. Kids don't learn when they're in crisis. So
fight or flight response. They're in survival mode.
So we talk about it when things are neutral. Hey, sometimes when you're like activated or like really upset, I might have to walk away for a minute. I love you. Sometimes it's really overwhelming for me and I just need a minute to do my breathing and she will be like, okay. And then
that's amazing.
It's not a shock when
Yeah.
it happens.
Right. But you're making it about you, I heard, right? It's like, I need to do this. This isn't
Yeah.
because of you. You're not doing anything wrong. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. And
I
need
need
to
to bring you what you need. And I know
Yeah.
that in that moment, I just need about 10, 15 seconds, whatever it is. Just, it's probably not even, it's probably a minute for me. Like it's not
Sure.
even much. It's just, I need to do my breathing.
Breathe.
And I'm good. And then I will give you what you need. And that's great. Like, it's
Well, the fact
give
that
and
you
take.
do that, Jenna, is great.
But you got to do it, parents, you got to do it when things are neutral. Kids do not learn during crisis.
Right.
Adults are really bad for this, I feel like. Kids are, melting down or having a hard time. And we're like, but why didn't you do this? Or this is what you were supposed to do. Or, a kid falls and we go, I told you not to do that.
Right. That's not the time. They're hurt. They're hurt,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
wow,
We also
Tell
do
me.
a lot of, you're okay.
Right. But then the kids seem like, I'm not, though. This really hurt. Don't tell me how to feel. Right. I think just that number one, I did some mentoring with some young men here from the Boys Club Network and the East End Boys Club, who came from some really hard neighborhoods as well here, really hard lives. And one of the big things that stuck with me was just to help validate their experience, because it might be quite different than mine. But I, realized that I can't put my model of the world on them, because then it creates more confusion for them. They're like, I feel like this, yet you're telling me this. Like, no one gets me, no one sees me, no one hears me. But just to validate their experience could be huge.
Yeah, and everybody processes things so differently. Like, so I did my master's basically on trauma-informed care and like ACEs. Have you heard of ACEs?
No.
So ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. And there was a really, really large study done years ago. There's a really good TED Talk. Dr. Nadine Burke does a TED Talk on it.
Okay.
And I show it to my teams regularly. It's really, really good. Anyway, it's ACEs is a 10 questions for experiences. And it's a yes or no for experiences under the age of 18. And you get a point for each experience. But the higher your ACE score, the more likely you are to experience significant health issues, substance abuse, mental health issues, all those kinds of things. And there's a lot of data to support early interventions, and that we should be screening ACEs in every physician's appointment. So I screen my kids' ACEs every time they come in.
Because they fill it out?
They fill it out with me, yep.
Oh, wow.
We sit down. It's like, they're very simple questions.
Can you do that with like a whole school? Like, just have...
You could do it with your class every day.
Right,
or like not every day. You only do it like, you could do it once at the beginning of the year. Well, your ACEs don't change because they're experienced
from the past.
Yeah. So
but they might if you're doing some work, wouldn't it go down?
It can't go down. So your experiences, so the questions are like, has anybody in your household ever gone to prison?
Oh, so it's not okay.
Has anybody in your household ever hit you, hurt you, made you feel unsafe?
Right. But those are
they're concrete. They can't be changed.
But everyone would process those differently.
Yeah, but the higher your score is, the more likely you are, because
statistically speaking,
Statistically speaking, that's why they want to screen early on, because you can start to see what's going on in someone's household, like kids' household. If they're giving a yes to your mom is being hurt.
Wow.
Your parents are divorced. There's substances in your house. One of the questions is, has somebody ever tried to commit suicide in your family?
Wow. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, just in terms of, and it's objective.
Yes or no.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think that would be a really interesting thing to just do a screen of, and then potentially be very proactive with like, hey, based on your responses, you're more likely, not to saying that you will, but you're more likely. But
these are the things you need to watch out for. Sure. Maybe, if you can get some intervention strategies involved and maybe some services involved early enough, you can avoid some of those mental health issues. We know if kids are experiencing trauma, they're more likely to act out. We know this stuff. These things are really difficult to identify and address. So
Yeah.
that's why there was a whole movement of trying to get these into every physician's appointment.
Oh, wow.
Everybody should be doing it.
Like
We
on
do
the
it with,
initials kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, or annually. You go to your annual appointments.
Sure.
The other trick is getting people into those appointments, especially at-risk
Something might have-
populations.
Sure,
but-
they cost money. You might be not have someone trained in your neighborhood. You might not realize you could do it online.
yeah.
Oh man, that's so interesting.
And then who's it going to go to if you are completing it? Like, you need somebody to actually set you up for those services that knows what interventions to do.
Huh.
But it's incredible. It's a really simple tool, but ACEs has a ton of research around it, and it's still growing, I feel.
Yeah.
We know that kids' development is really impacted by trauma.
Yeah.
And if you're not resolving that trauma, you're stuck. You're stuck
Yeah.
there.
You know, so the other thing, I can see it is really windy in your background there. I thought it was like a screensaver or something, but I can see just a slice right out into the, or the window there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ring light.
It's so
that's-
windy.
Well, that's really cool. You have the chakras there on behind the window.
I have what?
The chakras.
Oh, I do. Yeah. This is Steve's office.
Yeah. Pretty cool. But there's like the ring as like one of them.
Yeah.
The root chakra. That's fascinating.
Interesting that you noticed that.
So here's the thing about trauma that I've experienced or learned, and I could be wrong, but because Tony says this too, and I can see examples of this and experience of this. Like trauma, yes, can come obviously from some of those major events. His definition was it's more stress than you're able to handle. You know,
Okay,
so your bandwidth.
Okay, I agree with that.
Mhm.
But I also, so here's a good example that I used when I was doing my master's. You have
And
to
I
do
know
like
we're
a
going,
presentation and whatever.
over time, but I thought this, you know, I think we could talk for another couple hours. We won't, but I do appreciate it. I like to honor the time commitment here, but sometimes, you know, as my wife says, you got to swerve a little bit, Ryan. So, hey, we're going to go over time here a little bit. Hope that's okay.
So the example I guess I would give, and this is what I gave when I did my master's presentation too. So I did my master's was focused on trauma-informed care, ACEs, but I did it in in the health region here.
Okay.
They were very behind on trauma-informed care at the time, and we're not coming from a trauma lens at all, which is wild.
Right. Not even on the radar. Okay.
No, and I was lucky enough to have a supervisor that previously worked at Rancherlo that was working in the health region, and she is incredibly smart. So, so the example I gave then was, if you have a school bus, and it's driving over a bridge, and it gets into an accident and crashes. There's two little girls on that bus. One little girl sits there waiting. Her parents show up. They wrap her up in her favorite blankie. They take her home. They tell her that must have been so scary and talk to her about her experiences.
Yeah.
The other little girl sits there waiting. Her dad comes to get her, takes her home. They don't talk about it. He tells her it's no big deal. And then she has to deal with it herself. And
Okay.
she's never processed it.
Okay.
Do you think their outcomes are going to be the same? If she's dismissed all her feelings.
Yeah. Depends.
It's a very basic example.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
an interesting one.
it's a lot of the follow-up on trauma. It's not actually always the actual event.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because
So-
those two girls, even with those parents, might have had two different experiences.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like the girl
Yes.
that the parent didn't say anything might have been fine. 'Cause
Might
she
have been.
posted it.
But they're going to definitely have different experiences.
They are.
And
Twins in the same household grow up to be
Yeah.
very different a lot of times.
yeah.
Even with largely
Exactly.
the same, well, that's the thing. There's no way they could have the same experiences. They're not with each other all the time. They're not conjoined would be interesting.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like you might have different experiences.
Yeah, you do, because you're a unique individual. You process things different. You think about different things. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just, it's a very basic example, but I really think the follow through and the follow up on things is really important with trauma.
I agree. Yeah, to check
So-
in with where they're at, right? Like,
Yeah. And
How
always
was
meeting
that?
people where they're at.
So in those two examples, I think this is really interesting. The first thing I would ask is, how was that for you? How were you? You know?
Mm-hmm.
because I heard in that other example, that parent like, oh, that must have been really scary. The parent is imposing their beliefs on the child, right? And the child's like, okay, yeah, it was, you're right. But, maybe it wasn't, right? The parents have a very strong influence on kids, like, but I think like you're saying, like, check in with them. Like, how was that for you? It's so much of what we talked about. Like, if you have a trusting relationship, if you've created a safe space, then you have the right to ask that question, and they're probably going to give you, an open response. Probably.
I always say too, like, coming from a place of curiosity, always lowers defenses, right? I'm not like asking you or accusing you or assuming something. Like, I'm just kind of curious. Tell me about this, or I don't know.
Right. It's one of my favorite books, The 4 Agreements. I rant about it. There's one of the 4 agreements. It's such a simple book, is don't make assumptions. Be curious. Just the power of that question, to be curious, to actually check in with them, because there's no way we could know someone else's experience. There's so many things going on for them that even, unless we were like in their body, in their brain, in their heart, in their feelings, there's no way we know what they're experiencing. Yeah,
and they may not even, like, a lot of kids don't know how to like label a feeling.
Sure.
I work really hard with kids on just labeling a feeling.
Sure.
Like, what is that feeling? Because anger is typically something that they think they are experiencing.
Okay.
And it's not always anger.
Oh, they think it's anger, but it's something. Okay.
Like, sometimes maybe you're actually sad.
Really?
Yeah. Or you're disappointed. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, they're like, I'm pissed off. I'm like, well, are you? Like, that's a weird thing to be like pissed off about. Okay. Like, are you maybe just like sad? Or are you disappointed? Like,
the language of emotion.
Yeah. And trying to get kids to understand, like, we use a lot of like zones of regulation and where are you on this meter?
Okay.
So I do sometimes with even my own daughter, like if she wakes up and things are a little bit off, like, where are you here? Are you in the green?
Right.
Yellow,
giving
orange,
it a color.
Red?
Yeah.
Because if you're in the orange already, if you wake up in the orange and I make one little comment to you that you don't like, you're probably in the red then. Versus if you were in the green and I make a little comment, you might brush it off because you're already in a good mood and everything's okay.
But you're checking in, you're curious.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, if you're in the orange, maybe I don't want to like challenge you on certain things.
Sure, not the time.
Because you're not in a great space right now.
Right, like you said, that teaching moment is when they're neutral, maybe more so when they're green.
Yeah. And I do it in all different ways. I've done it with superhero characters for kids.
Yeah.
Putting
Giving them an empowering identity.
Put it on a paper in their room, and they can tell me what they're at when I go in there, or tell staff, so they, like, our caregivers know, this kid is really pissed off right now, and that other youth, because by the way we have 10, is already in crisis. So this youth maybe needs to be redirected into an activity to help him calm himself and not get triggered by that youth.
Right. Just checking in with everyone where they're at. I just think of a classroom, right? And kids are coming in at all levels of zones of regulation, as you call it. I love that. The ZOR. And yet we're expecting them all to be this. I mean, you could expect them all to be showing up green. If you're expecting them possibly.
But I'm not going to always show up green.
I know. But that can be the expectation, I think, right? Like, what's going on with that kid, but like, but in my daughter's school, it is beautiful. They have a little workstation that they can go, and there's different colored sticks, and they can actually try and name that emotion that's going on right now, and what they do with that, right? Maybe there's a different thing they're going to do than the other kids right now because they're like, "Ooh, I'm red."
I love that. That's amazing. I also use a lot of like online games.
Okay.
I often create a Jeopardy game. You can go online and just create it, and I do like emotional regulation, and we create teams, and our kids love that.
Really?
Love any kind of game. So we did like
Jeopardy, because it's the other way around, right? You're going to give them the answer and they have to think of the question.
Yeah, or you can put in like a question, like how do you define, like, I don't know what I did last time.
Yeah, okay, but you're making it fun.
Yeah, I did it for substance abuse too. Like we were doing a substance use group.
Substance abuse fun, like the learning of it.
Yeah, learning about it. Yeah, and I mean, our kids are competitive.
Right, sure.
So I let them, we draw names for like team captains, and we could do the Jeopardy once a week and with various topics, and they would be on board every time.
Wow. Fascinating. So yeah,
I also created scavenger hunts, a
Right.
citywide scavenger hunt.
Really.
Yeah, and you had to answer certain like emotional regulation questions before you could move on to like the next task.
Fascinating. I mean, you
Mixed
do
in with
appreciate.
funny things, like I obviously try to make it a little bit more exciting, but
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get creative because these kids aren't going to do talk therapy for the most part, and you just got to get creative to kind of get those concepts ingrained into their brain so that when they leave, they can access those.
Yeah, but not everyone is quite that creative. Just FYI.
A lot of the people I work with are though, so
Well,
it's really
kudos to you guys.
inspiring.
I mean, just I'm taking all this in. Like, I'm just thinking about how many lives you guys have saved. How many lives you guys have impacted. Like, and then not just the ones that are directly in your care, the ones that then those lives have gone and impacted when they've had kids, and they've now had other relationships, and now they've given a kid. Like, you guys have broken these generational patterns that can get passed on.
For example, here's a great example of a success story. The social worker for a youth that I used to work with used to live at Rancherlo as a
Sorry,
youth.
say that again. They're now working in the.
So he's a social worker from a different community for one of my youth.
Yeah.
One of my old youth, I should say.
Yeah.
He used to reside at Rancherlo when he was a teenager.
Oh, wow. So the full cycle of now they're realizing how helpful that was, and they're doing it for others.
Yes. Whoa. And comes back and, tells all the, like, there's certain staff that are still here. And he's like, you changed my life.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think you guys, it's this theme that keeps coming up right now. It's just like, it's like a new name for humble. You even if I just really listen to your story, I mean, I love you guys and your husband, and I know it's been really hard, because he's been really sick. And,
and it's gonna be
and you're
hard.
raising. You both are, but I mean, right now, a lot of that weight falls on you to raise your daughter and to work, and then to support 10 other kids that are coming from some of the most challenging homes in the country. Like, do you appreciate how not many people could do that?
Every once in a while I look back and think, how did I finish school, have a baby, and work full time with a sick husband? Like, I just don't know, but you do it because what else do you do?
Sure.
But,
not everyone does that.
Yeah. I mean,
do you ever write down your superpowers?
I think relationship building is my biggest superpower. Yeah, and I think I talk about it, but no. We did a recent activity with my clinical group, and they wrote we wrote things for each other, but I got some beautiful ones with my superpowers, so that was nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, we could keep going here. I feel like at some point, though, my kids, you're later than me, so
yeah, my kids probably got to get up soon too.
Yeah. Okay, and then mine are gonna come down here. At least around. Well, I'm sorry I didn't know all of this before, and I'm glad that we've taken the time to get to know each other better. I really appreciate all that you're doing for others. I appreciate your time here and sharing this, because you and your team, and I love how much you talk about your team. I mean, you guys have figured out some incredible things, really, like, to make this work. Not just make it work, but make it really work, right? For these kids, to make it stick.
Yeah.
You know how many, we talked about this yesterday. There's so much I want to know about this, like, because I'm trying to figure out how to schedule 3 kids and their activities with 2 parents. You guys are scheduling 10 kids with 10 parents and all of that. Like, that's just even just that logistics, as someone who took in engineering, like, that's just fascinating and phenomenal that you guys are able to do that. And I know you use some software.
Oh yeah, we finesse communication as much as possible.
Yeah, but that's such a challenge for a family of only 3. It's in 4 and 5, right? But you guys are doing it for a family of 20.
Yeah, it's insane. Even just like making sure we have people to drive people places, like kids places. It's just
I found
insane.
this amazing. Oh, maybe you guys will like this carpool app. it's fantastic. At least I know, who's driving, what car's got which kids, and what time they need to get picked up, and where they need to get picked up, and where they need to go to, and when I need.
Oh,
You know
that's
what I mean?
cool.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we have challenges here, like, because like even we have a 15 passenger van, but would it be better if we had 2 minivans?
Right, a little more nimble. Yeah, sometimes.
But then we split up there's lots of
Sure.
yeah, lots of
goes in
those
which car?
dynamics too. Then we got to split up the group, and if things are a little bit chaotic, we like to keep the group together for supervision purposes.
Right.
Like, it's
Wow.
just there's lots of dynamics, but
Well, I appreciate you guys have solved it at that level, so that it makes everyone else feel like, well, fuck, I can solve what I got going on. If they can do that, I can do this.
yeah, I mean, add on all like making sure everybody's got shoes, clothes, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, just are they fed and collect clothes on, and shoes are tied up? Okay.
Yeah.
And are they not gonna do all these other things? Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we've had this time together. I'm glad that it sounds like you might want to start sharing some more of the stuff with with parents like us and me that could use it. And hopefully we can make some stuff happen this summer.
I hope so.
Yeah, maybe you guys come out this way this time.
We've been wanting to. Hopefully we can.
Yeah.
We'll
Or
see.
just send Savannah over.
Oh, okay. We'll just send Savannah. I understand. I'm just Savannah's mom.
Yeah, we want to see all of you guys. Sarai, maybe Sarai wants to get her YouTube channel going. Right, here's another thing where I'm like, but she wants to. Like, she's been following these other kids at 7. She's watching this and going, Daddy, I want to make money on YouTube. But like, imagine if I put my limits on her, and there's some considerations about this for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
And okay, how can I support that? Maybe it's just a private one with family. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a way to do it that would be safe.
Savannah wants one too.
Okay, we can do the Sarai and Savannah and Sarai, whatever they want to call it. Get them shooting content together. They could do a podcast like this together. That'd be hilarious.
There you go. Oh my gosh. Just them going back and forth.
Okay,
Imagine the wild things they would say.
that would be. Imagine people tuning into even right now we're doing dad talks, and yet you're on here. I don't know what to call it now. You're gonna be like, why is this mom on here? I thought it was dad talks. But then we have 2 kids on here doing kid talks. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. There you go. Telling the world how they need to write their own stories.
Okay. My parents. That'll be. I think we got to do that. That'll be fun.
It'd be pretty cute.
Okay. Well, Jenna.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Alan. Thank you we had the most people actually watch today and stay on. I noticed.
Oh, geez.
It is 4 people, but there's a lot of people that don't probably get up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So I get that. That's why it's on all the channels afterwards: Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram doesn't let us keep it there though. So if you want to watch this, well, if you're already watching this, if you're hearing this, so don't worry about where it is because you know where it is. Maybe just do us a favor because the algorithms like this. If you do appreciate it, give us one of those, the thumbs up thing. Can't believe I'm saying this, but it does. It's a good reminder. Like, I don't think to do it, but then I hear someone saying like, oh yeah, right, subscribe, like. If you don't like it, then don't like it. Just be honest. Tell us how you feel.
Yeah,
give us some feedback
and what you want to hear.
Pardon me?
What you want to learn about. Tell people what you want to learn about.
Right. If you stuck to this point, if you're hearing me right now and you didn't like it, then don't give me a like. Don't give us a like, but tell us why you're still listening. Tell us what you would want. Maybe you're something you're waiting to hear that we didn't say. Please put it in the comments. Let us know because we want to make this thing better for you. This isn't me here talking for the fun of me hearing myself talk. It's to put good stuff out in the world. So, and I think that's
very cool, Ryan.
Well, maybe some more people will watch. We'll see. Well, thanks, Jen.
All to see me, I'm sure.
Maybe like I said, maybe you're the star of the show, and I need to get off of here. That's what happened with Sarai in my daily videos. She's like, "Give me the camera, Dad."
Yeah, she's taken over those.
She's taking over. I'm like, what happened here?
She's so adorable, though. So
she likes it. She likes it. I'm not putting her on. She's grabbing the camera. She's hitting stop. I'm like, wait, you can't cut in the middle of my speech.
Not long ago, she would never get on a camera. I felt like, anytime if we would call a video call or anything, it was like impossible to get her on.
Okay.
Now she loves it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's something there. I'm gonna go with it.
Growth.
Help her support in a safe way. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Well, we're over time. That's me being flexible. And I appreciate your extra time here, and anyone who's been listening. So thanks, Juice. Awesome to see you, brother. Love you, man. And yeah, let's have an awesome rest of the day.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Jenna. Take care.
Bye.